Good morning, ma'am. Thank you for taking out time on your busy schedule, and I would like to extend a warm welcome to you on behalf of ARC for joining us on Up Close and Personal with. Before we begin, I would like to start with a small introduction about you so that our audience knows who you are and what you do. Priya Awatramani, ma'am, is an esteemed alumni of SBM and MIMS from the batch of 2008. Ma'am is a sales and business excellence lead with over 12 years of experience in consumer goods and retail. She started working with General Mills as a manager, after which she worked in Singapore with Covan, Lego Group, and Tesco in sales and operations planning for over 6 years. She's also worked at Glenmark Pharmaceuticals Limited for 2 years, and currently, ma'am is an associate director, GTM and sales at PepsiCo. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Diksha.
So, ma'am, now we're going to start with some set of questions. So, shall we start?
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. So, you've had an experience of working with such great organizations and your career spans for over 12 years. You must have had some learnings that you would want to share with me and for the audience. So, can you please take us through your journey of these 12 years? How has it been? What were the do's, don'ts?
Okay. Sure. So I think, in terms of the journey of over the last 12, 13 years, I think it's been amazing. Really, if I were to sum it up, it's been a roller coaster ride also. Right. And see, some of it obviously was planned, but some of it also becomes serendipity, so really just being there at the right time, in the right place. And I think so if I were to just think about it 10 or 15 years back, I wouldn't have thought that this is where I would exactly be. I don't think anybody can think, as much as we talk about where would we be 5 years down the road, you can't really imagine it. So you really have to keep making what seems like the right choice in the moment and just go on. Right. So for me, what has been very interesting is that I have been part of large organizations. So almost all the organizations have been huge MNCs, but at the same time, the teams and roles that I have been into have been in their startup phase. Okay. So that's what really made it very interesting for me. So when I was with General Mills, we were, we had just started the Global Business Solutions team. And while General Mills was the largest food manufacturer among the top 5, this particular organization in India was one of its kind, and we were, starting on a journey where I was into planogramming, and again, that service per se was pretty new for Indian teams. We were looking at retailers in the US and giving them assortment and shelf management solutions. Right. So that was one of a kind. And then I moved on to Lego. I spent a large part of my career there. Again, at Lego, while it was an organization in existence, but in Singapore, in Southeast Asia, they were really leapfrogging into a new phase, and it was a huge growth phase for them. They were trying to establish themselves in a much larger way in Southeast Asia. So again, that was a high-paced, fast-paced organization, and a very high on energy, young people in the organization. So that was that. And then with Tesco, again, that was completely something different. We were launching Tesco's private label in Singapore as a consumer brand. So we were all of 5 people and trying to decide what exactly we should sell, how do we place it, and how do we convince the retailers to go about it. So that was again a unique experience. And then here again at PepsiCo, while of course, as you know, PepsiCo is a large food and beverage company, but the global business services part is just a 2-year-old organization. And we are trying to work with all regions of PepsiCo across the globe, and we are partnering with them in sales, marketing, and other services. So that's what has made it super interesting, super challenging, and fun at the same time. So looking back, it's really been a great journey, and couldn't have been better.
Ma'am, you make it sound so easy. I mean, I definitely understand that it must have been challenging, but to hear it, it's an absolute pleasure and a delight. So, my second question for you is that we're living in a world where uncertainty is at the top and we would not know what's going to happen next. So, how do you take on these challenges? Like, what keeps you motivated to take these challenges head on?
Right. So, yes, uncertainty is there. It will be there in your professional life as well as your personal life, right? I think for me, the mantra is simplify as much as you can. Whatever you are in the midst of, you need to make sure that you understand what you want and, you stay focused on that. So it's really about, see, when you say motivation, I think the only person who can motivate you is you, right? There is no point looking for external motivation or thinking that when that motivation will come, then I will proceed, because that really never happens.
Right.
So you need to define and you need to revisit from time to time what is it that you really want. And it's so easy to get distracted nowadays, right? There is so many things around you. There are choices, there are so many options. So the more focused you can be and the more targeted you can be on your goal, and you need to decide what will make you happy, right? Because if you start looking around, if you start comparing yourself, if you start thinking a lot about the future, you are only going to make it more difficult for you. So it's about how do you stay focused and keep moving on that journey. And it's fine if you don't have all the answers. You have to be happy and complacent. Not really complacent, but you have to be content with where you are in your journey, right? And it's never going to be like, that person made it, or that person is ahead of me. That if you get into is where you get start derailing yourself. So I think it's about simplifying and knowing what you want.
Ma'am, this is something that people like me or who are in the MBA journey, we should definitely want to take this up, because we as individuals are often so dismayed by everything around us. We want to do everything because people around us are doing everything. So I think this piece of advice is really going to help us all. So the next question is that what is your advice to those people who wish to have a career in the same domain as yours? Like, what are the things that one should do, that one should not? What is the kind of opportunities that one should look for?
Okay. So within, I think, so my domain throughout has been sales and category development. So within sales, it's been business planning and expansion. So how I look at it is, sales has a lot of different facets, but it's also your most fundamental place to start with, right? So I think as early in your career that you can get into a front-end sales role, it will be very good. Because people talk about it, but it can't be emphasized enough. So what happens is you really need to understand first your customer, and you really need to understand what's the product, right? And you will get that perspective very well only if you do a front-end sales role. So if it's possible, I think one should get into that kind of a role, because that 1 or 2 years that you will spend doing the actual sales, you will know what are the challenges, what does the customer really want, and what you should and should not do. So you will learn in those years. You will try, you will fail, but you will figure out ways. So that is really important. And whether it is traditional trade or modern trade, if you're getting that experience, I think that's something that you could take up. And because later on, as you grow in this, you will then realize what is the need of the customer, and how do you marry your offering with that, because that will be the most important aspect of your work later on. And also, see, sales, there is front-end sales, so you can decide to continue your journey there, or you could look at the more the planning side of it. How do you forecast your business? How do you decide how much sales will you make? how do you go back and look at what you have done so far, what has sold and what's not selling, so those planning side of it. Or it can be analytics around go to market, around cost, how do you optimize costs, and you can make your offering to the customer better. So those are aspects which you can get on to a little later as well, and if you have had that front end stint, I think it really helps.
Okay,
so if possible,
that is an amazing insight, ma'am. So you've been a part of SBM from 2006 to 2008. What, according to you, are the things that one should do and one should not do to make the most of this 2-year journey? Because often there are a lot of things that are out there, but you have to choose and pick what is correct for you, what is not. So how should one go about that?
Right. So if I reflect back, I think the most important thing which I think can't be emphasized enough is really in your 2 years there, I think most important, you should network as much as possible. So and networking should be very mindful. It's not like go and talk to everybody around you, but as much as possible, interact with people who are of a different field than you are, or who are from a field that you think you want to be in, right? And also very important, if you can go out in the industry and one could be calling guest lecturers, so that interaction, or it could be probably holding a symposium of like-minded people of certain topics that you think you're interested in. I think that's a great way to get that interaction started. Or it could be about your job, work when you're working on the placements, etc. Then building that network. I think that is a very important piece. And of course, real life experience is definitely important. So if you take up your MBA post working, I think that's the best, rather than just continuing on your education, because you get a different perspective. You've already worked, you understand some aspects, and then you build on those. So if that is possible, if not, then try and get an internship, because then it exposes you to the actual world out there. Or you could even do projects with companies. So this may be something that you need to put an extra bit of effort, because your college may or may not have the tie-up to do those projects. But I think that effort will be well worth it, right? And I would say that keep challenging your comfort zone. So you may be coming from a certain type of work environment, or you may be very well versed with certain aspects of marketing or of MBA in general. Try and work on those which don't seem so easy, and it's easier said than done. But if it's really about practice. So if you start taking action in that direction, is where you will feel the momentum coming.
And ma'am, what are the don'ts, like strict no-nos, like the ones that one should never do according to you?
I think the one strict no-no would be just sticking to your syllabus, or just taking it as a regular course, where you study, you appear for the exams and finishing. It's not just a degree. You want to really feel the experience. I am not so much for a online MBA kind of a thing, where you don't visit the college at all. You don't, I think study groups, projects where you are with people and, solving this problem together. I think those are definitely very important. So I would stay away. I know that this last 2 years have not been in favor of something like that, but at least you have group studies and all of that. So that helps. Yes, I wouldn't treat it as a normal regular course, because you will have your MBA books, but that's not what's important. It's beyond that, where your real learning will happen.
One of our faculty, says this, that, your MBA starts beyond books. Your books is just 20% of your MBA. The life is the 80% that you live outside your studies. So the next question is that if you were to give an advice to a younger self, what would it be and why? It could be any advice.
Okay, so one, I think definitely would be that live in the moment. Don't be too future focused, because many a times you get consumed by it. And I think I was that way, where I would think a lot about how does this help me in the future. Sometimes it's okay to just see that it works in the moment and go with it, rather than think a lot about the future. Yes, you need to have broad plans and an understanding of where you're going, but sometimes you just don't have all the answers. So it's better you live in the moment and you be happy, rather than you're always focusing on the future. Right? And I think something else also would be that you need to keep flowing. Okay? So in the sense that there are times in you, and especially when you start working, you have worked for 3 or 4 years, if you feel stuck, it's an indication that you want to learn more and you want to grow. So rather than feeling frustrated about being stuck, you figure out what else can you do, how can you learn more, and how can you do more. So I think keep flowing is what is important.
It sounds so easy, but I know it must be really difficult to actually do that. So the next is another question on the philosophical side of it. How should one recognize their calling in life? Because we as individuals do have a lot of options, and we are influenced a lot by the people around us. So then it becomes difficult to navigate as to which path should one take, what suits me, what does not suit me. So how should one go about that?
Right, and it's very important also, and it's something probably many of us have a question mark around, right? Some people may figure out early on in their lives, which is great, and then they can stick to it. But a lot of us don't know or don't realize very early on what is the calling, right? Again, a very simple answer, but as you understand this, you will know. So you really need to keep looking, right? So you don't give up. You have to keep looking for it. You may take up a job and you may start working on it, but there may be at the back of your mind, what if I was doing this, right? So don't let it be in your mind. You will need to take some action about it. You will need to try it out. You need to speak to people who have been in that field. You need to find a way to probably take up a project in that area. So let's say you are working in sales, but you really think that marketing probably is your calling, right? So in your head, you may keep thinking about it, and you may think that, okay, 5 years down the road, I will try it out and then I will know. But that doesn't really happen. So as soon as you think about it, I think you should try and see how can you act on it also. So you could ask your boss to probably give you a project which allows you to, open up that avenue for you, or you could study about it, or you could, try and do a project outside of work that allows you to try out that area. Because without trying, you will never know whether you are in.
Very true. Right.
So I think just keep looking and don't feel frustrated that, okay, I don't know yet what I can or cannot do, or what I want to do. I think age is no bar, as long as you feel motivated enough to go ahead and try it out. I think that's it. So you have your whole life ahead of you.
That's really motivating, ma'am. So if not MBA as a career path, what do you think you could have done, and how different would it have been, like, if not MBA and if not this domain? What would you have done then?
That's an interesting one. So I think one area which has been very interesting for me, and something that I read a lot about now, is really human psychology. So understanding what motivates people, how people behave, and how they react to things is something that interests me. And what I do now is I read a lot along those lines. I think if I was not in this field, I would probably be doing something like coaching people in the corporate area. I think that's a very interesting area, and something that probably I may get into at some point.
Wow, that sounds amazing, and that does sound like a plan, ma'am. So now we move on to the fun segment. it's a rapid fire where you just have to answer it in a word or two without thinking much. Okay. And we have 5-6 questions and you'll have to answer those. So the first one is, what was your favorite subject when you were at NMIMS?
Okay, so I think consumer behavior was one of the favorite subjects.
Okay. And your favorite faculty?
Mala Srivastava. I don't think she teaches there anymore, but she used to teach us market research.
Oh, okay, that's great. And you had the privilege of being in college, unlike us. So what was the favorite spot in college?
So we were actually in the older building. I don't know if you know it. It was just one building. A favorite spot, there were two actually. One was the quadrangle, where it was just outside the canteen, because all of us used to sit there and discuss everything about projects, not about projects. And the other one was the library. I think that's where we've spent the most amount of time.
Right.
The first floor of the library is literally like 50% of the time.
Right. And the most memorable experience, like if you would have to cherry pick that one experience that you still remember vividly, what would it be?
I think graduation was the one that I vividly remember, throwing our hats in the air, dressing up for it. So that was really great fun.
Okay. And if you would have to describe your corporate journey, like from then till now, in a word, what would that be?
So I said it earlier, roller coaster. It's
Rightly
ups
so.
and downs, and it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. We end with the interview here.
Okay, thanks. I really enjoyed this.